too. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Seven Fingers Hidden Hurdles. And today we have an individual, Lisa Perkins, that has a story that she is probably starting to show up where it might be a little more noticeable to the general public, her condition and stuff. But she's going to tell her story, what it is, what her struggles have been over the past almost 2 decades now, if I remember right. And what she wants people to know about her condition and to help others that might be suffering with the same condition. So go right ahead, Lisa.
Well, thanks for having me, Jeff. I appreciate it. Like Jeff said, my name is Lisa. I have multiple sclerosis, MS, and I have had that in March this year will be for 19 years. And back 19 years ago, I was really burning the candle at both ends, and I started having sporadic left-sided weakness in my left hand. I was at a job where I worked really long hours. I had a lot of stress in my life, and when I was on a keyboard a lot, and I started noticing that this feeling would come over me, and I was having kind of trouble with like my fine motor. Like I had to stop and think about the keys that I was pushing and all of that, and wasn't going away. And so I went to the doctor, and he said he just thought I was under too much stress, and that if I would start getting some more rest, that hopefully it would get better. Well, over the course of the next month, it started happening more frequently, and then it started affecting my left leg and my whole left side of my body. And I was getting to a point where I needed to like stop and hang on to a wall or hang on to something because I was losing my balance. And so I went back to the doctor, and he did a bunch of tests. And um, anyways, he said, I really still think it's just because you're exhausted, you're working too much. And I'm like, well, it's my life. I'm a nurse. I don't have another option, you know. I need to figure out what's going on. And he did a bunch of strength testing and blood work, and did everything. And he said, you know, I really still think it's just stress. But he said, I want you to go see a neurologist and see what's going on, because maybe you have something else going on. So I went and saw the neurologist. He did the same sort of testing and all of that. And he said, you know, I really concur. I think it's probably just that you're exhausted, you have too much stress going on in your life, but I'd like to do some more testing because it could be MS. And I said, but you don't think it is, right? And anyways, I did some blood tests. I had an MRI done, and my MRI showed some lesions on my brain that were indicative of MS. But for me, he said the way to confirm it is he wanted me to have a spinal tap done. And so I had my spinal tap done, and anyways, it confirmed what he thought, that I did have MS. At that time, I was, gosh, let's see, 33 years old at the time, and I had two young children. I anyways, it was a smack in the face and very scary. And when I was first diagnosed, one of the hardest things was to avoid the internet, because there's so much that that you read that's very scary. Anyways, I had to think about my children, um, medication options and treatment, and the meds are so expensive, and how that would all work. And I was continuing to have a lot of trouble with my balance, and the symptoms were continuing. And so, anyways, long story short, I ended up being on short term disability for a few months. I got started on my treatment. I got my MS to go into remission. It was relapse remitting MS. And it kept it at bay for probably 16 years. Most people would say, "Oh my gosh, you have MS? I had no idea. Everything, you look totally normal. Like I never would have guessed." And it was that way for about 16 years. And then like I mentioned, am a nurse, and the pandemic hit, and I was under a significant amount of stress. And so, anyone who deals with an autoimmune disorder, stress is not a good thing for us. And I have a very high tolerance for stress. Um, and so I started noticing that my original symptoms with my left sided weakness were getting worse. And so I ended up going back and seeing my neurologist, because at this point, my MS was pretty stable. I didn't have a lot of problems. So I only saw my neurologist about once a year. Things were good. So I went back to see him, and he ended up recommending that I go see a different neurologist that specifically only specialized in MS and had kind of a broader knowledge of kind of the up and coming MS and where things were. So I was fortunate enough at that time with where I lived that I was able to get in fairly quickly to this new neurologist. And after reviewing all of my information and my years of MRIs, he said that he believed that my MS had progressed to secondary progressive MS. And so, with that, he recommended that I start a different sort of in treatment, more of kind of an aggressive treatment with some infusions. And so I did that. But secondary progressive MS is where basically your original symptoms just kind of continue to decline, versus relapse remitting is where you can be fine and then you have a relapse. And anyways, my MS in the last few years with everything going on has continued to decline. It is definitely, I don't hear anymore, "Oh, I had no idea that you had MS." My left-sided weakness has become more, um, definitely more noticeable. My balance and equilibrium are off. I walk with a limp on my left side. And this year, I have been faced with what seems like maybe small to a lot of people, my biggest fear of having to use a cane when I walk. It's been really emotional and very mental for me. I, at the beginning of last year, decided to purchase a cane. It came and it sat in its package for probably 2 months before I could open it and even utilize it. It was just, I don't even know how to like fully explain, but it was a visual object of um, that I really did have MS and I had a disability and I was progressing. Anyways, it was very, very scary to me using that. So I started using it more, but I just, I had such a hard time at work. I would try and use without it, and I would travel and I would try to do it without. I would carry the cane in my bag and going through security uh, became another uh, area that I hadn't even thought about going through security. That was this metal tube thing folded up in my bag. So I got flagged in security and ended up having to explain even further of, I have a disability, I have to use this cane, you have to take it out of the bag, you have to visually show that you have it. um, just a lot more of having to explain things to people. I've started using my cane a lot more. um, it's I'm working really hard this year of trying to give myself grace. I have a really hard time of putting myself first, of embracing where I am in my disability right now. And I think I am realizing that with using a cane now, it's made it really hard because it scares me of what if I continue progressing and I have to be in a wheelchair. And so I have, thankfully, the amazing support of friends and family that have really encouraged me that it's okay, that I need to use my cane, that I don't want to hurt myself and make things even worse by falling because of my lack of balance and equilibrium issues. I have to take stairs really slow. I have to slow down, be mindful of my walking. Lately, I have started seeing a neurophysical therapist as well, and having to learn to, I haven't realized how much my right side of my body has learned to compensate because of my left sided weakness. So, anyways, this year has been a lot of working on myself through the years. People say, how do you stay so positive through all of this? And these transitions are so huge, and you just stay so positive. And I have been met with a lot of challenges in my life. I lost my sister at a young age to cancer. I lost my dad early to a heart attack. And so I have been challenged a lot in my life. And I made this determination that there was nothing I could do about the past, and I can't predict the future. And I really just have to cherish today and stay positive and make the best of where I am, because stressing about the unknown is not going to help me, and there's nothing that I can do about it. And so I really am focusing a lot as I go into this year of continuing to give myself grace, keep my positive attitude. And I really want to share that just because you are told you have a disability, that it's okay. You can make the most of every day. It doesn't mean that you have to give in. When I was diagnosed with this, and even as it's progressed, I have people say, "Well, why aren't you on disability? Why are you still working? Why don't you use a handicap placard?" Which I do now, but I didn't give in to that just because of my diagnosis. I I am doing anything and everything I can to make every day the best, and I am not going to stress about the future. So, anyways, I don't know if that's exactly what you were looking for, but that's kind of my story and where I am today. And I am learning to embrace walking with a cane. I have bought three different canes now, and I figure I might as well have some cute canes that I can walk with and match what I'm wearing for the day.
Yes, use them as badge of honors.
Yep,
You know,
yep.
through my own journey, I got some gnarly scars that were made by doctors and stuff trying to save my life at the moment. And early on, we battle appearance wise, big time, but
Yep.
also the battle within my head was how I appeared to the world.
Hmm.
And so I hid it for a long time and stuff. Um, Now, granted, there's several different types of MS, I assume. And
Yes.
how many stages are there within your? Do you
Well,
know?
with MS, there's relapse remitting, there's secondary progressive MS, and there's primary progressive MS. And so, secondary progressive MS is always been around, but I think it's being diagnosed more. It's kind of you have all the meds have or all the treatments have either been relapse remitting or primary progressive, which primary progressive is where in the beginning you just continue to decline and get more and more symptoms and disability. And relapse remitting is where you may have symptoms initially, like I did, and then it goes into remission and you don't have any problems and you can go for years, or you can, some people will have new symptoms that present itself and then it goes into remission again. And so kind of classic secondary progressive MS is like the course that I had. I had a lot of problems with left-sided weakness. I got it to go into remission and it was completely fine. I didn't get any new lesions. Um, and it was fine. And typically, secondary progressive MS comes out between, according to my neurologist, anyways, usually around 15, 17 years into the disease, where your original symptoms just kind of continue to decline in. And so the treatment that I'm on now is where instead of it maybe being like this, the medication, it doesn't stop it from progressing further, but it makes it slow down. And so I'm hopeful that I'm doing what I need to do. I am trying to remember in the 19 years that I've had it how much research has come from when I was first diagnosed and the treatments that are available. And I would love to see a cure in my lifetime. But for now, I'm thankful, at least with the continued research, that there's treatment, hopefully, that will keep it at bay. At this point, I still battle that mental part, and using my cane, it still scares me to death of being in a wheelchair. I think that was one of my biggest fears when I was very first diagnosed. Of I didn't ever want to be that person that ended up in a wheelchair. And I know that sounds bad, but I'm very autonomous. I'm very independent. I go, go, go a lot. And so I push myself beyond. And so I really am trying to take that time for me of remembering to put myself first and practice what I preach, of giving myself that grace that I need. So
Yeah. So, and you looking more to yourself this year and stuff, do you do any self help meditation or anything of that sort?
I do. This is my 14th year of doing CrossFit. I found almost 14 years ago that I loved CrossFit. I loved that environment. I loved the family of people. I have gotten up at 4:30 in the morning for years, and I was going 5 days a week to the gym. I really prided myself on the muscle that I had built, some definition in my muscles. I loved that strength training, the cardio, the core strength that I had built. And in the last few years, I have continued to go. I only go probably 3 days a week now, but I really have had to learn to scale and modify what I'm doing. But I love that so much. But I've come to realize what a benefit that has been for me. It's a huge outlet mentally, but it's also helped me physically as well because it has given me that core strength, which helps my balance. And I didn't realize how much this past year has been even harder for me as it has progressed more, because I remember what my body used to be able to do and what it can't do now. And but I'm continuing to go, and I have such a supportive family, but it has helped so much. I mean, even as simple as a sit up, now with my left-sided weakness, when I have that, especially in my leg, the weakness and fatigue now goes up my whole left side of my body. So if you think about doing a sit up with only your right side ab muscles working correctly, it makes it even harder to do a sit up. It's just little things like that that it's been really emotional for me there, but I've been able to see the benefits of doing that for years, of how much it does help me and what a great outlet it is. And so I continue to get up at 4:30 and go to the gym, and I do what I can. And it helps me in a lot of ways, mentally and physically. So,
So are you a member of any MS support groups locally? That's
when I first moved to the area, I was part of some groups. I would go to some meetings, but I honestly am not familiar. I'm sure there probably is. I do participate in some groups on Facebook that are on people who are taking same treatment as me, or women who have MS, or people in general that have MS, kind of just talking back and forth of, has anyone experienced this? Even as far as different devices with my neurophysical therapy, I have started using a brace that is on my left leg that kind of helps with heel to toe walking, and has helped my balance a little bit with using the cane. And so, anyways, it's just good to hear about different things from people across the country and sometimes around the world, depending on the group, that things that have helped with that. For me, heat is a huge trigger, and so kind of heard about some different devices and even clothing that help in the heat of our summers, and beneficial things that help me, so that I'm not just held up in indoors where I can't go outside. So
what about research studies? Have you participated in any of those?
I have not participated in any of those, and so I'm not sure. That's something, honestly. It makes me think a little bit. I haven't even ever thought about looking into that. So,
And it's strange within my realm and stuff. Um, it's just recently that I've seen a few for the finger partial hand. And so I'm starting to reach out to different organizations myself, saying, hey, if it's out there, I want, send me the information. You know, I want to be a part. Anything I can do to help make someone else's life easier is what I'm up for.
Yeah.
Is Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's I guess if I had more money, I know there's a lot of I've had friends and family that have um or like friends that I work with that have talked about research in other countries, like with stem cell stuff. I don't know a lot of some of the specifics with that, but I have a lot of people who talk to me about different diets and different supplements that can help. I always appreciate a lot of feedback. There's the thing that is really hard with MS is it's very individualized. And so what works for some don't work for others. And just because we have the same diagnosis and we're on the same medicine, our bodies don't respond in the same way. And so it's been a lot of trial and error of finding what works the best for me. And so I, I try to just remember to put myself first and cherish every day. And for me, having a positive attitude, I think, has really helped me a lot. I refuse to give in to it. It just ticks me off. My brain says I can, and my body tells me I can't, and I keep pushing because I want to make it better.
Is there anything else that you would like the community to know?
Um, the biggest thing is just to remember, you have to cherish the day and don't stress about the future. Um, don't read all the negative things that are out on social media. Don't believe, as I say, Dr. Google. I mean, stick with your medical professionals. And for me, all natural is great for some people. When I was diagnosed, I had young children and I wanted to do what was best that was going to help me to be a mom, to take care of them for years to come. And so having that positive attitude and, cherishing the day and doing what you can to preserve yourself. I have really tried to eat well for the most part. I'm not perfect. The physical exercise has helped me a lot. Having an outlet for yourself and putting yourself first can be really helpful. So, anyways, having a disability doesn't mean it's the end of the world. You can cherish every day. So, I I love life. I do have MS and I am embracing it and trying to make the most of it. I definitely have my down days, but I'm making it work. So,
Okay. Thank you very much, Lisa.